The great city you are seeing is Rio de Janeiro, the second most populous city in Brazil. When you first enter the city, everything looks natural, like any other big city located by the ocean. However, if you go a bit further into the mountains, the city gradually changes and you reach a place that has no resemblance to the city you first saw. Brazilians have several terms for the people living in the city. They call the people living in organized part of the city asphalt people, but those who living in hillside areas are called hill people. Here, we witness a significant contradiction, where two completely different groups live in the same city and their lives are drastically different. Brazilians, in their Portuguese language, refer to these areas as favela, which translates to slum. Now, who lives in the slum? As always, the majority of its population is made up of poor in Brazil. However, the most dangerous mafias in Brazil, the most perilous criminals, and the harshest human traffickers can be found in the favelas and are actively engaged in their activities. These places are very dangerous. In the favelas, anyone can do whatever they want. The buildings are haphazardly constructed, without any regard for law and with all kinds of hazards. Now, why has the city government allowed this kind of growth? You should know that during their colonial period, the Portuguese are fond of American slaves. The English and Spanish also brought slaves, but not to the extent of Portuguese. The number of slaves brought from Africa to Brazil was 11 times greater than those brought to America by the English. This extensive importation of slaves turned Rio de Janeiro into a city of slaves. The population of slaves in Rio de Janeiro alone was greater than the population of slaves in the entire South America. The Portuguese brought this slave for centuries and mistreated them generation after generation without even recognizing them as citizens. Until we reached 1888, when the freedom of slaves in America had an impact on the Portuguese and they were forced to abolish slavery. However, it did not mean that they considered them as human beings. Mistreatment continued. The slave had no proper place or job that provided income. Essentially, they were homeless. For this reason, they went to the empty mountains around Rio de Janeiro and started creating a shelter for themselves with whatever scraps they could find. And this was the beginning of favela. The city officials of Rio de Janeiro are asleep and do not realize what filthy growth is taking place alongside them. Favela is getting bigger year by year, and today about 25% of Rio de Janeiro's official population lives in favela, meaning favela has a population around 1.5 million people. Favela was initially one slum, but now has been divided into 1,000 parts and has thousands of different names. Each part governs itself, meaning each person does whatever they want there. The government, army, and police do not enter favela. For this reason, favela is a paradise for criminals and smugglers. More than 90% of favela's population are ordinary people who are just poor. They're not criminals, they're not addicts or lawbreakers, but are forced to live there. Nevertheless, favela is a big and an active city. It has electricity, water, and shops. However, its electricity is drawn from various power lines without any engineering and could catch fire at any moment. Similarly, its water comes from illegal pipelines and such sources that are not trustworthy. For this reason, most residents try not to drink this water and buy bottled water from shops. If they can afford it, actually. Can you step into this favela at all? Yes. If you're a journalist, you can easily go there. everyone welcomes you, just so that you can report from there and let the world know that how these people are living. The ordinary residents of Favela know that life is much better outside, but cannot live there. Several generations have lived there, but have not been given a proper job to enable them to live and rent a normal house. One of the most dangerous mafias operating in Favela is called Comando Vermelho, which translates to Red Command. This mafia was originally a communist leftist group formed in 1979, but quickly turned into an extremely dangerous mafia whose main income comes from selling cocaine throughout Rio de Janeiro. Today, they are no longer a communist movement, but an extremely dangerous mafia. One of the most corrupt police forces in the world is Rio de Janeiro's police force, whose main income comes from these mafias. This is the situation in Favela, a place of contradiction and struggle where ordinary people are trapped in an environment controlled by criminal elements and face daily challenges for survival. That's why ordinary people in Favela are more scared when the police enters Favela than to build trust, because they know that these police are pursuing their own interest rather than coming to establish security. The Rio de Janeiro's police have a world record because for every 23 people they arrest, they kill one person, which is far ahead of any other country. Some say that American police kills people, which is not close to reality because in America, one person is killed for every 37,000 arrests. Many times the government has decided to clean up this mess. They should raid there and arrest all the traffickers and put an end to the situation. But the person has never succeeded because the most of the city officials in Rio de Janeiro are corrupt, and mafia groups pay bribes. That's why, like El Salvador, no one can come and set things right because the corrupt government is really like cancer. A healthy person who enters it either becomes corrupt or removed. A strange city where 90% of the population is held captive by remaining 10%. No one comes to rescue this 90%, neither the government, nor the police, nor a compassionate person who can become an opponent of this corruption. Every tourist entering Brazil is warned to be very careful about thieves. Don't take your mobile phone out on the street, and if you do, you might get killed. These are conditions of ordinary Brazilian cities, but if a tourist wants to enter Rio de Janeiro, they have to comply with all these conditions and are even committed not to go to favela. But if you really want to go there, you are responsible for yourself. There are also many adventurous tourists who go there to see favela and take responsibility for themselves and take a tour. It really breaks one's heart for these slaves whose father have lived a life of hardship and their children now living in a situation such as ones living in favela. The story of favela continues and no positive steps have been taken. We have to see if they can finally end the situation or not. Thanks for staying with me till the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. See you all in the next video. Bye!